At the end of the year, our team was really looking for a project that would combine all of the skills that we were working on and we had learned about throughout the year. And we stumbled upon this idea called the micro museum, and we kind of took that, we adapted a little bit, and then we ran with it. So students were researching and trying to really tell us about the story of change and how things have changed from the past to the present and possibly even into the future. And that's where our project started.
Really early on in the project planning process, we wanted to figure out a way that we as a group of teachers could really immerse students into the idea of an engaging museum exhibit. For most of them, going the last few years from COVID, they hadn't had experiences where they got to go and touch and feel and see and hear and interact with ideas and information in a museum type of environment. So what we did is we created an immersion day, and each teacher on our team decided on a topic, and then we each kind of competed with each other to create interactive and engaging exhibits where students got to go around and follow a map of our hallway and learn about the story of these different topics in the past, the present, and even some ideas about the future. So we each tried to figure out ways that we could engage students with information. So there were videos and QR codes and tactile experiences and paragraphs they could read or images they could look at. And really what our goal was is that students were completely immersed in learning and hopefully engaged in an exhibit type of experience. And then what we were able to do then is sit down and debrief afterwards about what they noticed, what they liked, maybe some things they didn't like, and some feedback we could give. But we really wanted students to start to conceptualize the idea of creating a mini museum around a topic. And then we started looking at need to knows, like what do you need to know in order to create an exhibit like the images we saw or the things you experienced. So students were asking things like, well, how do I research a topic? Or how do I write a short paragraph to explain something? Or how can I create an interactive element that engages someone in the learning process? We also had questions about, the product. How big can my mini museum be? What can I include in my mini museum? Is it going to be out of cardboard or wood or where am I going to display it? There were also questions about the process of, what are the steps of this project? What do I need to complete at each kind of stage in the process? And then we really jumped into the investigation cycle. Our first step in the investigation cycle was really to just collect ideas. So we immediately started on our second day of the project with jot thoughts. So students were in a group of 3. They would rip off a sticky note, put their idea that they could build a mini museum about, and then put it in the middle of the table. At the end of that protocol, students then selected 3 ideas from the middle of their table. It could be things they wrote down. It could be things their table mates wrote down. It could be something they heard us say as we were listing ideas as we were walking around, that they could then start to think about, is this a topic that I could tell the story of change about? This was also really helpful because we took the ideas that weren't chosen and we created a island of misfit ideas that if students got stuck anywhere along the process, they could go to that island of misfit ideas and then choose a new idea that they could get started with. So we asked students to come up with their topic. We asked them to come up with a research question. And then they were really on their own to research. So students were accessing information. And one of the things that we took time to do is really co-construct ideas around what does it mean when I'm done with my research? And that was really something that was pretty awesome about coming out of this whole project, is that we really asked students, what does it mean when you're done with research? We didn't want to keep answering the question about, am I done with my research? We wanted students to be able to, on their own, identify, hey, I have enough information to move on to the next step because I've done this. And that was a really cool co-construction piece that we had in our project. Students then started moving through their own pace. Once they had their research question, they were, accessing information, citing sources, and then developing the prototype of their mini museum. So we asked them, what are some key elements that would be part of your museum? What are some of the key ideas that are related to your topic in this idea? And then we started having them get feedback from their peers. And then as they started moving along the process, it went from a very independent process where they were researching their own topic, they were gathering information, they were, reflecting on the success criteria in their prototype, to a more collaborative process where we started grouping students up based on similar topics or similar themes or maybe similar interests. And those students then, groups of 3 or 4, designed a mini museum that incorporated all of their ideas and their research topics. When we got to the presentation piece of the project, our students put their work on display. We set up a mini museum showcase day, and we had all of the different exhibits spread out throughout our space. And we invited community members, other classrooms, other teachers in to really see the work that our students had been doing over the last several weeks. Part of the process was also practicing and preparing students to be able to present their information. So we had practice. We had students, stand up in front of their peers and present their information, or work with some staff members to present their information. And that really prepared students to be able to stand up in front of strangers and adults, which are scary sometimes, and say, here's my topic, here's the question that I was researching, and here are some kind of key ideas or things that I want you to take away from visiting our exhibit. And then we allowed people to interact with their exhibits. So you'll see there were video games set up, there were interactive books that you could flip through, there were photo displays that you could see. There were trinkets and toys set up that told the story of change throughout the topic that they had chosen. And I think that was super powerful for students to see that, we had researched and we had done all this work about our topic, and now we combined it all into these interactive and engaging mini museums that really showcase the depth that we worked through to be able to present this really high quality product at the end.
When students are able to have project-based learning experiences, they really are allowed to take ownership of their learning. So we see students not only grasp the content that we need them to grasp, but they're also developing skills that will help them not only in school, but outside of school and in their future, just as a human on this planet. So students are able to take ownership of their learning, set goals, work at their own pace, develop those kind of soft skills, if you will, to be creative and to be able to research and problem solve and design and develop solutions to problems. And I think that is one huge benefit that students have when they experience project-based learning in their own classrooms.